I'm Eliza. They're excited to bring a sketchbook that is, I think, 2 years old, maybe the most. This is a Canson one. The paper is very nice, has a little tooth. For the most part, I try to fill up a sketchbook a year. It's kind of a little bit of everything in here. I do like to just go ahead and draw without really any plan. I don't theme sketchbooks unless there's a purpose for that. For this one, I don't have like a theme.
Are you a person that always has a sketchbook with you wherever you go?
Yeah. I try to bring it as often as I can. I forget sometimes, but yeah, I am one of those people. I just flip through some of these pages, and they're just like a lot of studies, but a lot of times I just want to push pencil. This one is definitely a pencil one.
Here's to the pencil pushers.
This looks like a thumbnail of something that I never finished. I just kind of abandon drawings. I don't really draw over them. If something's not working, just move on.
Are most of these from reference?
Yeah, I have a lot of references laying around. A lot of times I don't stick to them, but that doesn't mean that they're not inspirational. Some are more like mood boards, if that makes sense. Some of these end up being ideas for illustrations later on that I would do either for clients. I would reference old work, like, ooh, that kind of fits the theme, and I would elaborate on this or use it. I would use this as reference for something new. This one in particular, I was going for kind of like perfect symmetry with a little bit of design elements to break the symmetry. So for the most part, it's mirrored, and then the background is definitely not. So it has that balance of symmetry plus freehand stream of consciousness. This was a study, I believe. I'm not sure if this was photo referenced or video, but lately I've been using a lot of video references, especially for gesture drawing. It really helps to get a sense of motion and also get a bunch of poses by default. You get to almost experience something in 3D even though it's not in front of you. So it's closer to live drawing than photo reference. I think this one is in particular kind of an example of like there's motion, so I overlap a lot of stuff. I do a lot of this kind of ensemble of poses. It is difficult, I gotta say, it's difficult to find live drawing substitute on your own time. So this was an attempt to create live drawing without having live drawing in front of you.
Are you used to drawing like every day at the same time, at the same place, or do you just draw whenever?
I try to get into almost like the habit of doing the same time just so that it becomes second nature. If that's not the case, you make it work, but usually in the morning or before getting to projects, I would try to warm up with these kinds of either freehanding or trying a new material. Like this one, I was testing some new pencils. So I was trying to come up with a way to have something in focus that blends. So the forehead is very much blended and softened versus the nose and the mouth are super contrasted. So this is an exercise in that. Little girl and her sheep. That was from video too. I'll remember it. This is more like testing the pencils. I'm not sure if these were Prism or not, but I think a lot of times before going into professional work, I would test materials on sketchbooks because a lot of times it really is depending on the surface. Some surfaces are very forgiving, some are not. This one was a little difficult to pull out some of the values, but then the blends were beautiful, so trade-offs. This one, I think this and the series after, I want to say I was like doing some speed run tests. I was trying to be very quick and very efficient with some head angles, a lot of shape exploration. So it's like using minimal layout and like how much information can you pack with very few lines. That's an ongoing thing that I'm doing.
And what do you strive for when you sketch in your sketchbook?
Not pretty drawings. I mean, it's great to have pretty drawings, but it's more testing out ideas. A lot of times is that it's almost like workshopping through ideas that I have. So, if it's not successful, that's fine. And as you can see, I don't draw on the back of pages. The reason being, as much as I want to test stuff, I also want to treat each piece as like its own. if I were to cut this, can I put it somewhere? And I don't know, I just got in the habit of doing that. And I think it preserves the drawings better in long term because you're not, if I was drawing the back of this will be imprinted on this side and it can get very messy very quickly. So a lot of shape exploration, getting super designy within like kind of realistic lighting and anatomy. So I have references that I'm looking closely and then trying to simplify shapes, group shapes together and create some visual interest without straying too far from kind of the realistic look I'm going for. So it's a dance between realism and design.
So for those minimalist designs, what's the exploration with the minimalism?
I'm just trying to see how far I can take it before it starts looking mushy and unclear, which is not hard to get there. And I think I'll be drawing, like for these ones, I think I liked where this was going, but this shape was, I don't know what happened here. So it was like, this was too much, like someone just took a big bite off of her face. So I was like, okay, I'll try another one where it's less of that. So I was trying to do the opposite, where it's like, it's still minimal, but it's less of that kind of broken shapes. So I was trying to come up with a better flow for the face. This one, I peppered in some background, but it was getting a little too busy. So I think abandoning it here or leaving it here was, to me, enough, where I'm not overworking to the point I don't like the drawing anymore. If I were to push this further, I would make a new one where it would be more complicated, but I wouldn't touch this one. More cats, fluffy cats.
How many sketchbooks do you use at once? Do you keep it to one, or do you have different ones
Oh,
for
I
different?
have too many. Whatever's around, and I have like 3 in rotation at the moment. Because they're different surfaces. This one's more illustration paper. So it has a little bit of tooth, which is great for soft smudges, but it's not really great for this kind of like alcohol-based markers. It does leak, which I don't like. Moleskin is my other go-to because it's a lot thicker, a lot smoother. So inks go really, really nice on that. So really is like I have 2-3 different types of papers and whatever feels right. I would just kind of rotate. I wish these were a little bigger. I gotta say, I think this sketchbook is nice and spacious. Looking back, like I could have increased this like 30%. But also, as long as I'm drawing, that's the main thing. Even a little bit, even one little sketch is enough for me to know, okay, I did my daily dose of art. These are, I think that's my son's. I love it. It's my favorite page. This one, and then there's like a series of hands here. I was referencing a pottery maker, so it's a video again. I just really liked the way like the material was handled, and I was trying to see if I can convey action and interaction without actually showing the clay part. So it's like how do the muscles show that this person is actually like grabbing something or manipulating a surface. So it's a lot of like the tensions in the fingers here, even the tensions in the wrists. Really show that like, okay, it's not a resting hand, it's actually a working hand. This one's a little, obviously there's some kind of interaction, but you can see how I'm like still trying to push that idea. I think this one in particular, I think was one of my favorites, just because I was like very like paying attention to the anatomy a lot more than some of the other ones. This too. But this is one video, and you can tell like you can do so much with just one video. I mean, you just pause and draw.
I've read your book, The Art of Eliza. So if you have like a limited time per day, what would you say is best to focus on?
Yeah, I would recommend not getting stuck on your setup in terms of materials. A lot of times I hear friends who are like, hey, I wanted to do a watercolor, but there's like no time and it's the setup. It's like, if you cannot do something, it's stopping you from creating. I would change the set of tools for at least time being. That's why I've stuck to dry media for the longest time. I'm only now, after however many years of churning out work in sketchbooks, I'm doing more painting, more like something that involves a lot of prep. If you take that out and you're still producing work, to me that's more important than actually fixating on like, oh, I'm not painting. It's like, it doesn't matter. As long as you're creating, to me that's most important. So whatever's the quickest way to get you to create, it'll save you so much time. You only need an hour, so if you can sleep 1 hour less a day, I think that's a fair trade-off. And I'm saying that obviously jokingly. You don't have to do all of that. You can pepper in here and there. But even the tool set I have, I've kind of trimmed the fat so much where it's just the most essential, basic set of tools that I can take anywhere. So I don't have an excuse to be like, oh, I cannot draw today because I forgot my pencils. Like, no, everything's literally right there. So drawing daily too. So I feel like if you say every other day, then it can be every other 2 days, and it's easy to go a week. But if you're like every day, there's that urgency that makes you commit to having a lot of practice. This is my son. At the time he was very much into dinosaurs, so I drew him with a bunch of raptors. I don't know what this was for. I don't like it, but it's in here. And I was like, what is that? I think I was fighting the paper. This paper was just not made for this marker, so live and learn. More cats. Cat! I think this was a combo of pencil, colored pencil, and a little bit of maybe Sharpie. I can't tell you. A little gecko. This is all pencil, colored pencil. And then in order to smudge it, because of how waxy prisms are, I use like a white or a transparent pencil to blend. I think I have a video of this online somewhere, so if you're interested in seeing the process, you can go back to 2022 and it's somewhere in there. I think for this one, I was going for almost like an old-timey like children's book illustration from like way back in the day. If you think, lettering on a big page and you have something in the corner, that's kind of that. As you can see, I do a lot of things floating, and there's like implied surfaces that I picked up from Sergio Topi. He's probably the master of that. There's a ground, but there is no ground. You just imagine the ground because of the way the characters are standing. I love it. I think it involves the viewer to add to the final image, and it's more interactive than just kind of a polished final piece. There's some mystery there, which I find very appealing. I don't know. Skip this page. It's very angry man. I think this was from Life. I want to say this was life drawing, but I cannot confirm nor deny.
How often do you get to do life drawing?
Try to do it at least a monthly thing. Lately it's been harder, but I'm going back to it. This is Pentel lead. Technically it's like color pencil, but it's just red lead. I love it. I love the red lead. I think there's some beautiful kind of a timeless look to it. That's my girl. I think she was at the playground. Part 13. I was doing some stuff, 13-second sketches. So these are just testing my speed. So you can tell I'm just repeating shapes until they feel easy. I think I was trying to do like a vampire. I don't think I ever posted any of these, but doesn't matter. It's just exercise. I like this. I wish I did more of this. Maybe I'll fill out the rest of this sketchbook with more Prisma. This paper definitely shows off Prisma really well.
Do you have any tips on how you kind of compose these kinds of overlapping images?
It's more filling the blanks. I'll start with one, and then based on that, if there's another one to complement it, it'll be a little bit of like just almost collaging as I'm going. The only thing I pay attention is making sure nothing that I like is getting overlapped too much where it's lost. So in this particular case, I really like this arm here. So I want to make sure that nothing else is in the way. So this arm here, as you can see, only starts to appear towards the bottom after it bypasses this arm. It's up to you to figure out what works and what not. This and two, I like the head, but then everything else that I like belonged to other drawings. So I think this was part of the last one I did, and it was like very silhouette. It just kind of implied in there. If I were to shade this, I feel like it was gonna get too heavy. And it's, as you can see, it's like simple, heavy. So there's a little bit of that. I try not to overthink beforehand because I feel like it stops me from creating. So usually I'll just commit to one thing, and then it'll springboard something else where I'm like, okay, I like this. Now I think I did this one second, and this one was the last one, just to kind of add a little bit of sequential feel to it. So they're not, I guess the action wasn't like A, B, C, D, was this.
How do you decide which elements of a form are going to be implied versus rendered?
It depends on the reference a lot of times. Some things just pop out to you, so I would keep those, and whatever needs to be almost in the background, I will either draw it as you said, like just kind of implied, or not even draw it, just skip it. I prefer to start with whatever catches my eye, whatever interests me. It could be, it's again pose based. Usually it's face, but it can be arm. It can be even the silhouette. I think in this case, I was really interested in the head to arm ratio in this pose. Same here. Here was more silhouette. Here, I'm not sure. I think it might have been just kind of the curve of the back. So whatever like stands out, I'll start there and then build the drawing around that. It's fun. It's almost like you're keeping some playfulness and some mystery to yourself as you go. You don't necessarily come with a plan for the day. Usually I know like I need to draw. Life drawing is the best if you are stuck, you don't know what to draw or where to start. I would go on YouTube, find a video of like a performance. It can be anything. It can be, people walking on the street. Freeze frame either as you go, or you can even almost like Russian roulette, just pause and go and see what happens. Sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss. Well, you'll be surprised how much information you'll get from very random stuff. I've used billboards as references, one of those like, do you have an injury? And it's just a person like, oh, actually I don't have an injury, but I like the person, and I'll draw that. I've used ads, yeah, you name it. Anything can be a reference, really.
When you have an idea for a larger piece or you're commissioned to do something, do you do exploratory sketches in whatever sketchbook you have at the time, or do you have a specific sketchbook for that purpose?
Oh, any sketchbook.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything that's available, it becomes that. I think especially if it's something that I'm like, okay, I have an idea. I need to make sure I try it. The way I think through problems, especially for work that is somebody else's idea, I have to draw the problem and solve it that way. If I think about it, nothing happens. Any drawn problem, to me, needs to be solved on the paper. That's why these are very important for exercise in that.
Thank you, Eliza.
Thank you.
Eliza's drawings are compelling partly because of how masterfully she handles her shading, with values and edges. These are fundamental skills every artist needs, and we're working on them right now in my Drawing Basics course. We're wrapping up the values section, and we'll be getting into edges next. Check it out at proko.com/drawing.